everyone. Welcome to the Q2 Graph GRT Participant Update. Thank you, Caroline, for recording this call. So just so everyone knows, this is a public call. It will be shared on the YouTube, the Graph YouTube. So feel free to make any content or social media posts about anything in today's presentation. This is all public information. And if you are watching this on YouTube and you want to be added to the Zoom invite, please reach out to me directly. So we will go ahead and get started. Thank you all again for joining. So the purpose of this update is just to provide an overview of the last quarter and things that are coming up and coming down the pipeline. And this is a call for GRT participants in the Graph network. And one thing to note is that GRT is a utility work token. And so you should only ever purchase the amount that you intend to use in the network as an indexer, delegator, curator, or user. There are no forward-looking statements in this document. So within the Graph, even the core contributors have been decentralized. So it's been remarkable to see just how many people across the world have joined in to help make open public data a reality, a very crucial component of the Web3 space. And it's great to see everyone around the world kind of gathering in on the mission. So the ecosystem has grown much beyond Edge and Node. There are now 7 core contributors with the Graph Foundation stewarding the core contributors forward. And so within this chart, you can see what everyone is focused on. So with Edge and Node, a big milestone for us is just around migration. Many people across the ecosystem are helping with migration, and we're really leaning in to migrate subgraphs from the hosted service to the decentralized network. And we'll double click into that in a moment. And we're focused on multi-chain support on the decentralized network, as well as layer 2 scaling, so that participants like you in the network don't need to pay high gas costs, but can still benefit from the security of Ethereum via a layer 2. And snark research and verifiable information. We're working with Semiotic Labs on this. And Semiotic Labs is also working on simulations around the protocol economics and the optimization and machine learning for automated decision-making, as well as the zero knowledge piece. The Guild is working on schema stitching, subgraph cross-chain composability, which is a really important and crucial component of Web3, as well as GraphQL developer tooling. Streaming Fast is working hard on substreams and the Firehose implementation. This is something that the indexers will run, and working to make Firehose a standard across not just the Graph ecosystem, but Web3. And Streaming Fast is also working on the infamous Solana integration. Figment is working on multi-blockchain and node support, as well as the Cosmos ecosystem integrations. GraphOps is working on protocol research and development, the indexer and experience, improving that, and then ecosystem support. And Mizari is working on creating subgraph and data standards and creating high quality subgraphs. So this is really important for not just projects in Web3, but also for larger institutions that have data standards. So Mizari is working on those standards. The Graph, as you know, is a default part of the Web3 stack. So subgraphs are this Web3 standard now for developers. And with subgraphs, they're open APIs. They're open and composable. And that means that third-party developers can effortlessly build new and interesting use cases on top of dApps, which drives a lot more value to the projects. And the use cases within the Web3 space are exploding thanks to infrastructure like the Graph and many other pieces of the Web3 stack. So as we know, DeFi DAOs, entertainment, but many other use cases like location, NFTs, marketplaces, social content, education. We're really only hitting the tip of the iceberg. NFTs have gone mainstream. People are talking about DAOs much more frequently today, but it really is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's possible with decentralized tech. The hosted service, we're kind of putting it in the rearview mirror, but the hosted service supports 29 different chains. So really multi-blockchain support has been really an important and crucial component within the Graph ecosystem. And we've seen over 1,800,000% growth in the last 2 years. So it's been remarkable just to see the development and growth on the hosted service. So let's double click into the difference between the hosted service and the decentralized network. We get a lot of questions on this. Some people think the hosted service is something people pay for. It's not, it never will be. It would be against our values to charge for something like the hosted service. So the hosted service was a temporary solution to prove product market fit and to onboard subgraph users. We iterated for the few early days subgraph users and it exploded. There are many supported chains on the hosted service, and we 39 different networks, and we are working to deprecate the hosted service and sunset it for network enabled chains by the end of Q1 of next year. So there's no GRT that's earned on the hosted service. There's 63,000 lifetime subgraphs. 24,000 of those are active today to migrate. And then this compares with the decentralized network. So the decentralized network is really what we're focused on today. It's decentralized, permissionless, and performant. There are over 165 decentralized indexers and counting. This number grows. And so, Web 2 has one Google, the Graphs decentralized network has over 165 Googles. So if one goes down or one can't index your subgraph, there are many others to kind of pick up the pace and pick up the slack. The decentralized network utilizes GRT, so it's earned by indexers, curators, and delegators. There are dApps that are paying in GRT today, and the goal is that over time, users pay in GRT on the network, and developers kind of build in the GRT costs into their protocols, into their business models in the beginning. And then we're working to scale the decentralized network from just one chain today, which is Ethereum, to 39 plus chains over the next several quarters. And there are over 400 subgraphs on the decentralized network today and counting. So we're taking this in phases. So by the end of Q1 for network supported chains, we will not allow subgraph development or deployments. By the end of Q4, there will be no more upgrades on the hosted service for the networks that are enabled on the decentralized network. And by the end of Q1 of next year, we will fully phase out the hosted service for network enabled chains. Let's talk about growth. So we're seeing incredible growth both on the hosted service and on the decentralized network. As I mentioned, before we used to share a lot more statistics around the hosted service, and we've intentionally stopped that, even though we're seeing incredible growth there. We're really focused on the decentralized network and looking at the growth on the decentralized network. So we've seen over 66,000 lifetime developers. I put asterisks here because there could be overlap between the hosted service and the decentralized network. And we've seen 23% growth quarter over quarter on the network. So it's no secret we're in a bear market, but the developers continue to build, and the growth rate is stronger now than ever. So it's been incredible to see. Queries, over 640 billion lifetime queries between the hosted service and the decentralized network. The hosted service is growing at 18% quarter over quarter. The network is growing at 41% quarter over quarter in terms of the queries, which is great to see. And then the lifetime subgraphs, so over 64,000 lifetime subgraphs. The hosted service is seeing 27% quarter over quarter growth, and the network is seeing 20% quarter over quarter growth. And then double clicking into query fees, which this is the metric we should all be keeping our eyes on. This is kind of the new network. Again, the hosted service data is in the rearview mirror, and we're really focused on the network. So Mazari reported the graph revenue. I don't like the term revenue because it makes me think there's a company extracting all the money. Everything goes peer-to-peer, but the graph query fees increased over 1,000% quarter over quarter, and June was the largest GRT query month on record. So it's great to see. Some of the notable subgraphs that migrated to the decentralized network in Q2. So the CryptoPunk subgraph migrated over 88 miles per hour, Convergence, Ampleforth, Gelato, Hop, TokenSoft, Connext. So a lot of different use cases here between NFTs and bridges and DeFi. So it's really great to see projects taking decentralization very seriously. And again, like decentralization, it's not a buzzword, it's not a marketing term, it shouldn't be used as such. It's really crucial to have tech that is truly decentralized. The Graph Day and Hack, as well as the party, were all a blast. Thank you all that came to this event. Hosting an event in San Francisco after everyone has publicly declared San Francisco is dead is no easy task, but over 2,000 people came out between all of these events, so it was great to see. And then 55 teams, they hacked during Graph Hack. And Bloomberg actually said it was like a breath of fresh air. Graph Day was a breath of fresh air. We've heard people from the Gnosis team saying that, maybe San Francisco isn't dead. So it was nice to kind of revive and breathe some more life back into San Francisco. And there were a lot of different highlights, and we'll double click into a lot of these today in this presentation. But a lot of announcements were made during Graph Day. So if you missed any of these, they're all captured here, and we will share this deck after the call. But a big one was sunsetting the hosted service, of course, launching substreams. And this is more efficient data streaming, something developers have been asking for forever. It allows the syncing speeds to be much more to happen much more quickly for subgraphs. And it also allows the amount of data that can be ingested to be much larger. So the use cases expand here. There were over 150 subgraphs on the decentralized network during Graph Day, the launch of the Graph client, the announcement of the GIP for layer 2 scaling on Arbitrum, Snark research. This is a big piece, not just for cryptography and Web3, but for cryptography in general. So we're making waves there within the near zero knowledge space. The Arweave blockchain and Cosmos Hub integrations completed. And there was a lot distributed in terms of grants. So don't be afraid by this number. A lot of this is kind of locked, but it is over 140 million has been distributed in grants today from the Graph Foundation. There are now 2 community DAOs within the Graph ecosystem, which is really exciting. Geo, the Web3 browser built on the Graph with GRT query fees flowing in the background, the beta launched. So make sure to get on that list. And then Tenderized liquid staking. Obviously, it's very early days of liquid staking, so make sure to do research, but it's really exciting to see liquid staking in Web3. This helps promote decentralization. Substreams, so just double clicking here, up to 100 times more performant. So if you have a subgraph that takes a week to sync, right now with substreams, it would reduce that syncing speed by 100 times. And again, like the use cases here can really explode because the kind of data that substreams can ingest is much more broad today, and substreams are a component of subgraphs. So the Arweave blockchain is now being indexed via the Graph. That was announced during Graph Day. We're still working on the file indexing and metadata, so that's all in progress. And then Cosmos Hub, this integration was completed, but this is just the first domino within the Cosmos ecosystem, and we're really diving in there. Shell proofs. So this is a Snark that lays the groundwork for verifiable queries and payment scalability. I am personally really excited about shell proofs because it helps us further decentralize. It will make it easy for any individual to verify the network, the Graph network, themselves at a low cost, which promotes decentralization. The launch of the Graph client 1.0. So this is a layer of software that enables multiple chains to various subgraphs in a very simple way. So it makes it a lot easier for developers to use the Graph. And this is an initiative the Guild has been leading around the Graph client. So just really improving developer tooling here. Many top dApps are now powered by the Graph network. These are all paying in GRT at the query fee layer. So websites and protocols, NFTs and DAOs, DeFi and bridges, music and gaming. Really the use cases are limitless here, and it's great to see, a huge shout out to these projects for taking decentralization seriously and contributing to the indexers, curators, and delegators with GRT. So there are now over 400 dApps on the decentralized network. So it's great, kind of deploy once, live forever. That's the goal. And it's kind of a new paramount within the Web3 space that a developer can launch an application and it can just live forever, and you can build in a business model behind it. And this is something that's a stark contrast from the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, where you need to, if you have a project inside of Google or Microsoft, you need to make more than like $1 billion for that to be able to survive. And they've killed so many projects. And so within the Graph ecosystem, it's deploy once, live forever. And there's no stipulations from a centralized company. Network participant growth continues to grow. So 165 indexers, over 9,000 delegators today, which is just great to see the growth here. And then over 2,400 curators. As subgraphs migrate to the network, it's important for the curators to kind of jump on the subgraphs they believe in. And it's been great to see the curator community rallying behind different subgraphs. And then over 400 subgraphs, as I mentioned. So this is a GIP proposal for layer 2 scaling. So right now it's on Ethereum and the gas costs are quite high. So there's a proposal to migrate it to a layer 2. So that way, when you delegate or when you are an indexer or curator, you don't pay high gas fees. And then this is the proposal timeline. So phase 1 is the DevNet, phase 2 is monitoring and validation, and then phase 3 is migrating. And the goal is for that to happen by the end of the year, if all goes well. So the graph and the merge is something that's been everyone's looking forward to within the Ethereum ecosystem and the Web3 space. And the graph is a really important component within the merge. So within the merge, there's something called the purge. And that's where with EIP 4444, it'll remove the requirements for the Ethereum node to maintain historical data. And so that's where the graph comes in. It's really important for the graph network to it's really important for the Graph Network to kind of step in here. And so we've been working with the Ethereum Foundation on this. And you can read more in our blog. So with that, I'll pass it over to Eva Balin to share a few words.
Thanks, Tegan. So I think Tegan went through most of these in detail, but really just wanted to give a summary of what we're working on. So this is our holistic roadmap. We have 5 different working groups that cover everything from improving indexer experience in the protocol to improving the subgraph developer experience. So some of the highlights are subgraph migration, expanding to multi-chain. So as Tegan mentioned, the sunsetting of the hosted service, we're in full swing. And continuing to improve indexing performance. Substreams and Firehose are a component of that, but we've got other features in the pipeline. Graph Client is really exciting because it's a staple client for any developer building front-end apps to be able to use and integrate with the graph. And we've got exciting new features that we know our users have been requesting for a while, things like child filters that are finally coming out. So there'll be more coming from there. On the L2 side, Tegan went into depth on Arbitrum. And the other one I'll highlight here is the zero knowledge proof work. So the SNARK Force, which is our SNARK working group focusing on verifiability, they are working on a shell proof, a new type of proof that should be much more efficient than any that exists today. And this will enable us to have verifiable indexing and querying and also unlock that roadmap to EIP 44s. So enabling any Ethereum developer or user to retrieve verifiable data via the graph. The GIP process is also in full swing. We've got quite a few going on right now that set us up for a lot of the elements that we just discussed. So for example, minimum curation for indexing rewards. This enables just more efficiency for indexers in their economics. The Arbitrum GRT bridge, this is the first step to us integrating L2. And we've got a few other exciting ones coming down the pipeline, especially focused on multi-blockchain. So osmosis indexing, Arbitrum, and then more on what we call block oracle to enable basically all multi-chain queries to be able to be processed on the network. Another highlight of just how much progress we've made to date in our decentralization roadmap. So we've given out over $140 million in grants across core devs and community, tooling, and protocol. We have 2 DAOs that are stood up and they're continuing to grow and ramp up, but the goal is that the foundation and the council continue to give them more responsibility and greater funding to take on our community initiatives. The council continues to thrive with our 10 members, and we have over 32 GIPs that have passed so far. So really fruitful community, a lot of engagement, and we encourage you to visit our forum if you aren't already engaged. Just to highlight over the last few large grants that we offered. So GraphOps is one of our newest core developer teams. They've been working on us with us now for several months, and their grant was announced at Graph Day. They focus largely on protocol research and development. So they'll be actually leading the protocol ops working group, focusing on components like gossip network subgraphs, really critical pieces to enable this vision of EIP 444 and in a really fruitful environment for indexers to be able to communicate. And the next one is Masari that we also announced at Graph Day. Messari is unique in that they're our first core subgraph developer grant. So really this is to focus on us providing the best ability for them to create their products, and vice versa. They provide us a lot of feedback. So they're building 200 high quality subgraphs. They're collaborating directly with our core developers to make sure any of the upcoming roadmap components such as substreams or graph client are conducive with their goals. And separately, they're also driving a lot of innovation. So they've built out several network subgraphs already across several chains. They're working with other developers in DeFi and across NFTs and governance to better create standards. And the goal here is that Messari subgraphs become the gold standard of how folks should be building subgraphs that are both accurate and complex. The Graph AdvocatesDAO launched about 6 months ago, and we've been slowly growing and increasing also the funding and budget that the DAO is given. So the DAO is just beginning to distribute grants, I believe, in the past month. But at this point, we have over 40 members, and members are folks that can actually, propose in the DAO and are the ones working for the DAO day to day. And we have over 174 advocates. So this is anyone who wants to maybe learn more about the DAO, learn more about the graph, contribute to maybe teaching folks. And we view this as a pipeline for everything within the graph ecosystem. So we've already started seeing folks get hired from the advocates, or maybe they go off and become grantees or start their own initiatives. So really thinking end to end, how do we grow Web3 in the graph ecosystem? We're starting with the AdvocatesDAO. And the next phase of this decentralization plan is the subgraph DAO. So a lot of subgraphs, in the community today are either maintained by the protocol team, sometimes they get our support, but the goal is that the subgraph community becomes autonomous, where grants that are currently funded by the foundation should be funded by the DAO, and any kind of maintenance, support, migration should also be handled by folks who are experts. So we're deep in the process here of ramping up. If you are interested in joining subgraph DAO or helping to set it up, please reach out to, I believe Payne is on the call here. He's a member, Vish or Colson, also in the community. And the goal here really is to make this as autonomous as possible for, supporting the subgraph community. So anything from reviewing subgraphs, quality assurance, maybe actually getting a developer to build a subgraph for you, or even migrate your own subgraph, we hope that the DAO will handle.
Thank you, Eva. All right, so Geo is announced at Graph Day. This is the browser of Web3. It's built on the graph and everything that happens in the background. So the goal here is that you pay a subscription fee, and that there's a fiat on-ramp that makes it really easy to be able to pay for Geo. And everything in the background that happens is in GRT. And this is no code, low code. And I think a lot of people are in the Web3 space. There's a lot of copycats. There's not a lot of big bets today. And I think Geo is a really big bet. And it's how we can kind of bring Web3 to the masses, how my parents, your parents can use and get onboarded into Web3. So you can join the waitlist for Geo. This is in beta today, but a really exciting announcement from Graph Day. Another big announcement from Graph Day was the Edge and Node space for Web3 launched. This is in the Presidio in San Francisco, and it's really supposed to be kind of open to anyone that is providing merit in Web3. So if your company is interested in sponsoring that space, get in touch with us, and we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony towards the end of the year. So I'll keep you all posted on that event. We're here just trying to ensure that Web3 becomes the future of the internet. I think, Web3, it's a brand new platform for truly decentralized applications to live. I think that right now we're kind of in the era of Web 2.5, where a lot of Web 2, like centralized companies, are trying to claim to be Web3, but they're not. And Web3 is the only platform. There can be no other centralized platforms. And so we're doing this because we want to really empower individuals across the world, and kind of remove centralized intermediaries from the equation that are kind of trying to take the power, the control, the money, everything for themselves, and kind of give it back to the users. So a few ways that you can help. One is just really generating excitement around the move to the decentralized network. There are positions that we are hiring for, the general counsel, the director of product marketing. This is a big one, product marketing, developer focused. We need someone to really kind of lead a team there. So if you know anyone, please let us know. A senior product manager, engineering manager, site reliability engineer, And then we're also hiring someone for the Edge and Node space to be kind of at the front desk, but also help with social media. So if you know anyone that's in San Francisco and looking, let us know. If there are any speaking and workshop opportunities to educate around the Graph network, we're very interested, especially when it comes to the developer community. And then intros to any and all companies that are building dApps. If they use the Graph and aren't connected to us, please connect us. And if they don't yet use the Graph, definitely please connect us. If there's anyone in your community that you think could be a great Graph advocate, please let them know and share that to your community. And then emphasizing that that applications are not dApps without the Graph. Let us know if you'll be at Stanford Blockchain Week. A few people will be out there. There'll be also people from the ecosystem at Token 2049, and of course DevCon coming up. And then if you're interested in sponsoring the Edge and Node space, please let me know. So with that, we can take questions. I know there were a bunch of questions submitted to the forum, so thank you to everyone that submitted. Caroline, maybe do you want to read those kind of one by one?
Yes, the first question is, the timeline for migrating away from the hosted service to the decentralized service refers to subgraphs on network-enabled chains a few times. How many network-enabled chains are there today, and what's the roadmap to enabling more?
Yeah, so great question. So today it's just the Ethereum mainnet on the network. As Eva mentioned, the block oracles and the MIPS program will play a big piece here in how we can migrate many chains at once to the network. But in the interim, while those are all being spun up, we are going to take it one by one. And so if you have any suggestions on those chains that you would like to see on the network first, please do let us know. And the goal is to have the first one on the network, the next blockchain on the network by the end of this quarter. Eva, anything that you would add there?
Yep. So one thing to add is just that we are looking for indexers and any node operators who are familiar with running different chains, that if you're interested to please reach out. As Tegan mentioned, at the end of this quarter, we're looking to already start migrating our first chain. We have a program that we're about to set up as well to make it easier for indexers to learn. So please reach out to either any of the indexers that you know and love in the indexer office hours, or one of us, and we can basically just start chatting with you on how we can get this program running.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very important point, because some people might only want to run indexer for like a Binance Smart Chain or Polygon, and they might not want to run it for Ethereum. And so there will be different indexers across different chains. So if there are any node operators that you really like, or people that are great at DevOps, we would love to chat to them.
Next question, what percentage of the activity is happening on the hosted service at the moment versus on the decentralized service? How do you expect the transition from hosted to the decentralized service to look over the next while?
Yeah, great question. So I would say a lot of the Ethereum dApps have already migrated. So there are over 400 subgraphs on the decentralized network. That's a proxy for the number of applications or dApps that are on the decentralized network today. And we're seeing incredible growth there. If you go back to that growth slide that I showed, you can kind of see the growth difference in terms of the queries. So we're actually seeing a lot more query growth on the network than on the hosted service, which is exciting to see. And I would say the majority of subgraphs on network-enabled chains, the majority of subgraphs will be on the decentralized network by the end of Q1 of next year.
What is the interest/capacity to add more core devs in the future? If there will be more, what types of functions is the ecosystem looking to fill with more core devs?
Eva, do you want to take this one? I can just quickly say that, you know, being a core contributor, a core developer, it's no small feat. A lot of the core contributors have, some of them have bought out their previous investors so that they can focus full time on the graph. And, you know, there is more capacity, but I'll let Eva speak to that.
Yeah, I would say first off that, you know, core dev grants are not something we just hand out. So every team that has gotten one of these large grants, they first were a grantee for several months, or they'd contributed a very large piece of work. And so anyone who wants to be a grantee should firstly apply to our grants program, get involved in the forum or the community, and somehow raise their hand sharing ideas. And from there, typically the scope of work and the impact that we realize could be there with that team grows. And so we then, ask that team if they want to come on full time or what kind of commitment they're interested in. We're always interested in more folks on the subgraph developer experience side. There's quite a lot of support on indexers and protocol. We've got quite a large roadmap, but we're always looking for more teams like a Masari or like the Guild that are interested in improving that experience to get more developers into Web3. We view that the subgraph is the gateway drug almost for anyone who wants to become a Web3 developer, where you can just look at a subgraph and start to understand the chain or the smart contracts. And if you know TypeScript or JavaScript, that makes it even easier.
Next question. What are examples of big wins that the team is building towards in 2023? Starbucks/Web3 was a good example. Any others?
I mean, I would say anyone that's getting involved or dabbling in the Web3 space, we've seen NFTs kind of go mainstream, but we need to make sure that those NFTs are true NFTs. And so anyone that's kind of dabbling in the space, be it like Starbucks, Reddit, let us know. And we're always happy to kind of have conversations and educate on the space as well. And then anyone, I think the biggest piece that needs to be done today is getting people to accept tokens in their treasury, be it venture capital firms, companies, everyone needs to be able to accept tokens. And that's not an easy feat, getting that through your finance team, the accounting team, up the chain. And so I think that that's the biggest push that we can make today, because that's really kind of the first step. And so we've taken a lot of calls with companies, and we're kind of the eyes and ears in the Web3 space for a lot of companies. So we're always happy to kind of take those conversations and build those relationships up and help educate within the space. Eva, anything you would add there?
Yeah, I would add that we're always welcoming feedback or support on migration, especially in this trying environment. A lot of dApp teams may not have the resources or experience to dedicate someone to help them with migration. And so ourselves, the Graph Foundation, core devs, our community, we're all willing to help. But we also don't necessarily know about the experience that all those teams are having. So any kind of introductions or communications about managing the expectations of those teams or helping us to help them migrate would be awesome.
Next question. Who is paying the bill for decentralization? The graph is currently paying for the hosted service, where the bill of running an indexer keeps growing as more subgraphs are being added.
Yeah, so today what this looks like is the dApps themselves acquiring GRT to pay for the query fees on behalf of their users. The end goal is for those, so that can continue, right? And it likely will continue because it reduces any friction for the users of the applications. But when it comes to the future, what I want to see is dApp developers actually building GRT into the business model, into the protocol, kind of like what we've seen with Ethereum and gas fees today. And then also users paying for GRT in micropayments for their queries on applications.
And we have a follow-up from the previous question regarding migration. What is the main issue with accepting tokens into the treasury, and why is that the largest issue? And then is there a doc for migration related information?
Yes, there is. There's documentation on this. We're also working on a Q&A, so you can kind of stay up to date and live. And you can see the recent blog post on subgraphs. And sorry, what was the first question?
The first question was, what is the main issue with accepting tokens into the treasury, and why is that the largest issue?
So I would say for Web3 native projects, it's not an issue at all. It's something everyone is accustomed to. When it comes to mass adoption, that is one of the biggest limiting factors, because even if companies and people within those companies want to take down tokens on the treasury in their balance sheet and their treasury, they are limited in being able to do that by being able to get it up the ranks. So it's important, it's important to get that through prior to when you want to do, take down Ethereum, have that on the balance sheet, be able to play with applications and GRT as well in the future.
Next question. When will the wider ecosystem be able to start building with substreams?
I can take this one. So we're still in testing phases and we're trying to figure out like what is the best way to integrate substreams with our roadmap. So that would be graph node on the network, as well as enabling a high quality experience. So I would say we're a few weeks to months out, but if you are interested in working with them or testing them out, please reach out and we'll give you either some sort of a white glove experience or a demo to start.
Next question. It looks like protocol revenue hit almost 60K in Q2. As more subgraphs chains move over to the decentralized network, do you have any idea how much the revenue could be, even though likely 100% of the subgraphs will not fully migrate over?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of do the math on this one. We don't want to kind of provide any forward-looking statements here, but the numbers are there for you to calculate.
Next question. How has the feedback been, either positive or negative, for subgraph migrants moving from the subsidized hosted service to the paid decentralized network?
Yeah, great question. So this has been quite positive. A lot of applications or DApp founders and builders see the need for this piece, right, to be fully decentralized, so that it can kind of live on and be censorship resistant. We've seen a lot of applications actually take down a lot of GRT in their treasury. Some applications want to be like the largest curation signal, so they'll put a lot of GRT as that first curation signal. So that's been great to see. But we are very much ramping up on education around the decentralized network and what it looks like to deploy a subgraph to the network, because it is different than the hosted service. You have to, as a developer, you have to think about the amount of signal that you'll have, the curation signal. How much GRT are you going to get? We generally recommend putting at least 10,000 GRT so that indexers hop on that subgraph and they start indexing. So we're really focusing on that education. Pranav just did a workshop and presentation on that at East Seoul, which was very well received. So yeah, I would say the biggest piece that we're doing right now is just educating on that.
I can also say anecdotally, what's been interesting is speaking with teams that maybe weren't subgraph users before, so they weren't using the hosted service either, and they're recognizing that the network solves many problems for them. So, the hosted service being a hosted service, doesn't necessarily superior to any other centralized infra they might have been running themselves, but we're having conversations with devs where they're realizing, like right in the conversation, that them having 4 full-time DevOps engineers dedicated to running their server, is just not economical. And it doesn't even give them the best results. So a lot of what we're hearing is that the network is actually solving their problems. Even though they have to pay for queries, it's still cheaper or comparable to the cost that they'd be paying for any other Web 2 or centralized provider. So really, we're just optimizing the product experience and billing, making sure that that's smooth, and enabling them to have the flexibility to do versioning and upgrades once they do migrate their subgraph to the network.
Are there any other questions? I see. Yeah.
Last question. Will there be another graph day? When can we start getting involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've surpassed what's possible for a day. I think we need to have a graph week next time. So we'll definitely continue these. This was the second graph day that we had. And so we'll definitely keep you posted on the upcoming graph week. Thank you all for the great questions. We really appreciate it. We appreciate the participation. And thank you so much for the support and leaning in to the graph ecosystem. All right, with that, we'll give you some time back today. Thanks so much for joining.